Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel, and might I bid thee all a happy Easter. It's a very auspicious day, and I thought I'd mark it by launching into this goal of pursuing debate with one Jeff Durbin. What I thought I would do is review some of Jeff Durbin's videos concerning the second coming of Christ. And so what I did was I went on to YouTube, I typed in Jeff Durbin's second coming, and I clicked on the first video that came up, and it was about 10 minutes long. So I thought, great, that's a nice little introduction. And to be honest, there wasn't much substance in it because the topic of Christ's second coming didn't really feature as a strong component of it. It only sort of introduced a Gary DeMar's book on the topic, which I am not intimately familiar with, but have seen discussed, called Wars and Rumours of Wars. So I watched the interview, and it was very much a love fest. It was actually really nice and wholesome. Jeff Durbin is someone I would more closely associate with James White these days, and James White can be seen as quite a feisty and a fiery preacher in some regards, you know, someone who's very loving to his own fold, but quite guarded and fierce in other respects, which can be seen as commendable, but I think it makes him an unattractive sort of person, just a deeply repulsive individual. I'm only joking. I don't think that at all. But certainly a prickly person, a hedgehog of a preacher, one might say. Perhaps not a preacher, perhaps just in debate. So, Jeff Durbin talks about his origins as a man not raised in religion, and, good on him. Good on him for steering into the big questions in life, you know. Ultimately, I think those are the ones that give us the strongest sense of purpose and meaning, so that has to be celebrated. He says that he was first made aware of Gary DeMar through his response to the Left Behind series. You'll remember the Left Behind series being one that was quite comical and bombastic and ostentatious in its presentation of the end times. And so Gary DeMar wrote a response called End Times Fiction, where he sort of deconstructed these ideas regarding the end and the expectancies regarding the end. And so, not too much to say there. You know, they talked about how the Puritans set up these colleges and how Christ was the foundation of them. And they talked about the preeminence of Christian culture in their minds. And, I think there's a lot to be said for that. You know, Christianity certainly has its darker points, as it's mired in human will and all the destruction that comes with that. But we also have a lovely sparkling coalescence of divine insight along the way. And I think we have to also acknowledge that goodness. And we find that goodness across the whole world, but it's certainly not absent in Christendom. So, yeah, they end their little back and forth with one another, expressing an admiration and a close affinity with one another, which I find laudable. I find that highly commendable. And I'm curious to see if that continues as I continue to check out the videos of Apologia Studios, scrutinizing them quite scrutably. Quite scrutably. But I thought I'd end on this little point here. I thought I would touch on something quite Eastery, just to wrap up. So let me mention John 4, where we read, "Do you not say, there are still 4 months, and then comes the harvest. Behold, I say to you, lift up your eyes and look at the fields, for they are already white for harvest. Now this is a very interesting line, because if you look at 1 Corinthians 15:20, Paul says, "But now Christ is risen from the dead, and he has become the first fruits of those who have fallen asleep. For since by man came death, by man also came the resurrection of the dead. For as in Adam all die, even so in Christ all shall be made alive. But each one in his own order. Christ, the first fruits, afterwards those who are Christ's at his coming." Now the point has to be made that Jesus Christ has been described as the first fruits. Okay, the question is, the first fruits of what? Okay, what is he the first fruits of? Is he the first to be raised from biological death? No. So what is it then that he is the first fruits of? I'll leave that as a question for you, and we'll answer it more concretely next time, next Sunday. The second point to make here is regarding the harvest. We have the first fruits of the harvest. Then Jesus comments on 4 months. Okay, let's look at that 4. So we see this significance of 4. Yeah, just as we look at the 70 weeks of Daniel in regard the significance thereof, so too let's look at the significance of this 4 months. So Christ the first fruits, and then 40 years later, 70 AD comes around, and therein we have the fulfillment. Therein we have the reaping, where Jesus said, "For the Son of Man is going to come in his Father's glory with his angels, and then he will reward each person according to what they have done. Truly I tell you, some are standing here who shall not taste death till they see the Son of Man coming in his kingdom." And there lies the crux of the matter. Here is what I want to take to Jeff Durbin. When did this happen? We're going to explore this in more depth than we ever have before on this channel, as I look into the Latin, okay, as I look into the Greek, most importantly, as I look into the Hebrew, as I explore the depths of systematic theology, and then rip it up and throw it asunder to make way for experiential spirituality, yes. Or maybe just include both in my analysis, yes. So stay tuned for that. I think it's going to be really interesting. Jeff Durbin, I'm coming for you. Not really. Have a good one, and happy Easter, everyone, and all the best. But Jeff Durbin, it's on. Happy Easter.